Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to another tank review. Once again, we're having a look to see what patch 9.18 has done to another light tank in the game. This time it is the French AMX ELC bis. Bis, I guess. I'm not quite sure exactly how you're supposed to pronounce it. Tier 5 French light tank. Yes, I know, it's another French tank. I went on a bit of a splurge playing some sort of mid-tier French machines. Anyway, just before we get into it, if you are looking at this and thinking, oh, I know how this plays, there are loads and loads of videos about the AMX being a fast little tank that, you know, really messes with people. Please bear in mind, patch 9.18 changed this tank significantly. It is not the machine it once was. So, with all that said and done, let's have a look at firstly, a little bit of history for this machine. So this was a proposal put forwards, or a call for proposals put forwards by the French military in the mid-1950s. The idea was that they wanted a very lightweight tank that could be parachuted in with, well, paratroopers, much in common with a lot of the other French light tanks in the game, and this would go with them and give them some fire support. The design that was eventually put forward had a few different variants. So you have a very low profile machine, the driver is in a reclined position, hence you can get this very low profile, and the thing would pack a 90mm gun. There were a few different proposals where there would be different guns used on the machine, but the overall idea was that it would mount a 90mm gun and would give fire support to, well, French paratroopers. This machine was produced, there are examples in museums, but it was never mass produced. Unfortunately. I say unfortunately because it could have been an interesting little tank, but there we go. If we have a look at the tech tree, we'll see what we've got. Having a look at the French light tanks then, we're here at tier 5. All of the preceding machines, Renault FT, FCM36, AMX 30A, R35, AMX 40, these are all very slow, and in most cases generally very heavily armoured. It's here at tier 5 that the transition to more mobile light tanks really begins. And obviously this line eventually culminates in the AMX 13105, but you also get to unlock the Batchat 25T and the AMX 30B. Now, please bear in mind, there are plans to rework a lot of the light tanks in terms of their progression, or a lot of the light tank trees in terms of their progression, in particular the Americans, but possibly some of the others as well. So what I'm getting at is, at the moment, the line through the AMX ELC leads to 3 tier 10s. I'm not sure for how long that will remain true, but time will tell. If we have a look at the AMX itself and have a look at what modules might have carried over, we can see the top engine is unique to this tank. The top radio, however, is used on a bunch of different machines, but worth bearing in mind that the AMX ELC is the first of those tanks on this tech line to have it, so you may not have that unlocked. You have a stock 75mm gun, which is utter trash, so let's not worry about that at the minute. This middle 75mm gun, frustratingly, is unique to the AMX. This 90mm gun is also unique to the AMX, just to really get under your skin. And this means that in order to, when you get this tank, basically you are really going to have to play it stock unless you want to drop some free XP on some different guns and whatnot. But aside from that, you are going to have to play this tank stock, and you are going to have to unlock all the guns in order to progress further up the tech tree. Now this is a weird little tank. It's very much a light tank tank destroyer hybrid, because when mounted with the top gun, I believe this is not the case if you use the 75mm guns, but when mounted with the top 90mm gun, this thing does not get a fully traversable turret. And this is a historically accurate feature of the tank, by the way, so don't start blaming Wargaming for this. So the turret only moves a bit from side to side, so effectively you're playing, it's a bit like playing an ELC in a way, except there's a big caveat that we're getting to. But it's a bit like playing a little mini tank destroyer. So, let's have a look at some of the other different stats and whatnot of the tank. We're going to have a look at the gun in more detail later on. Just to let you know, the gun really took a heavy nerf when they bumped this thing, or when they patch 9.18, when they rejigged the French tech tree. But we are going to talk about that in a minute. Survivability, 320 hit points is not very good. It's on the low side even for a tier 5 light tank. Things like the Chaffee do have more. 25mm of armour, 30 on the turret, 10 and 15, 15 and 10. You know what? I'm not even going to bother showing you the armour profile of this thing. There is no point. People look at you, they penetrate you. HE will go through. This thing cannot take a hit. Mobility. Well, this is a very much a good news, bad news situation. It's only got a 180 horsepower engine, which is pathetic, but the tank only weighs 6.76 tons, meaning that the specific power is 26.63, which is actually rather good. But the soft stats, the terrain resistances, are not very good. And this means that despite the fact that the tank has a 60 km/h top speed limit going forwards and 20 going backwards, you're actually going to struggle to do that in most scenarios. It needs a bit of a run up to get up to that speed, and that's one of the big things that has changed for this tank from prior to patch 9.18 and post patch 9.18. The pre 9.18 ELC was an incredibly fast little blighter. The post 9.18, the tank feels considerably more sluggish. Traverse speed 39.63 is quite nice, it's very nice, but bear in mind again, with the Top Gun you don't get a fully rotating turret. As you would expect from such a small machine, this thing is sneaky, and this tank is small. I mean, there's a Batchat 12T, there's the ELC, there's a D1 of all things, there's the ELC. It's a very low profile tank. Really good camo ratings. Spotting 360 meter base view range for tier 5. I mean, that's okay. A lot of tier 5 medium tanks, for example, have 350 meter base view range, so that's alright. 400 meter signal range, however, is not very good. Now, whilst I haven't experienced it, you could potentially get into the situation in this tank where you are out of radio range with your team, which can be problematic, and that does limit the ability a little bit of this tank to actually do spotting and things like that. Now let's have a look at the guns, and I'm going to talk about two of them. I'm not going to talk about the stock gun because it's horrible, but I'm going to talk about these two. So this is the intermediate gun. It's not the top gun, but it's the gun you use while you're grinding out the top gun. 13.3 rounds per minute rate of fire, 100 pen, 110 alpha damage, 129 pen with premium ammunition, which is APCR in this case, 175 alpha damage and 38 pen with HE, 0.4 dispersion, 2.1 second aim time. It's not massively dissimilar to the 75mm gun actually that you find on the Chaffee. And you do get a fully rotating turret with this gun. However, you'd have to wonder, if you're using this gun, what's the point of playing the AMX? Why wouldn't you just go and play a Chaffee, which has a very similar gun but is more mobile and has better gun depression and more health? So you could use this gun, but I honestly can't recommend it, which leaves you with the top gun. 90mm gun, let's just let this sink in. 4.29 rounds a minute rate of fire. Now this is a large caliber gun to have on a tier 5 light tank, but 4.29. This thing has a base reload on a light tank at tier 5 of slightly less than, 15 seconds. 120 penetration is fine. 240 alpha damage is good. 150 pen with APCR, it's alright. 240 alpha damage again, 45 pen and 320 alpha. 0.38 dispersion is fine, 2.9 second aim time is rather long, and the soft stats on this gun are awful. And, well, if you want to put that into some sort of perspective, the base DPM is 1,000. Technically 1,029. It's terrible. Really, really terrible. It's monumentally bad. You do not have any DPM in this thing at all. Sorry, base reload there of 14 seconds. I mentioned the thing has a limited turret traverse with this gun. It's 15 degrees to either side, 5 degrees of gun depression, 13 degrees of gun elevation. They really hit this gun in the face with the Nerf bat, which is a shame. But there we go. So what you end up with is a tank with a limited gun traverse, and you end up wanting to play it like a tank destroyer. but your reload is monumentally long. And later on in the game, to be fair, then you can kind of try and get stuck in, but it's not as good at it as it used to be because it doesn't have the mobility that it used to. Honestly, with patch 9.18, I would have much preferred they'd have bumped this thing up to tier 6. It would have received the same matchmaking it always did, and they could have left it alone. They could have left everything else alone about it, and it would have been fine. But no, they bumped it down a tier, and they hit it hard with the nerf bat. Like, really hard. So what do you want for things like crew skills and whatnot? Nothing too surprising here. 6th sense on your commander. There's only 2 crew members. On your driver, camouflage, smooth ride, snapshot, all the good stuff is in there. So your commander, unfortunately, as well as being the commander, is also the gunner and the radio operator and the loader, which means there's quite a lot of skills you would want to have on your commander. Compare that with the driver. All this guy does is drive the damn thing. So you end up with this really awkward situation where there's a few good skills for the driver and loads for the commander, and you're just going to run out. Ammunition, you can see I've got 20 rounds of armor piercing, 11 APCR, 5 high explosive. Don't pay too much attention to that. That's what I used to have on the AMX back in the day. It's probably a fine ammo loadout. I used it when the tank was at tier 5 and it worked fine. You could probably remove some of the APCR actually, because the APCR ammo on this gun is not particularly good. I've just got a first aid kit, repair kit, and a fire extinguisher for the consumables. You might want to go coffee, I guess, but they did me absolutely fine. It's the equipment on this tank that is a bit awkward. So I do recommend a vertical stabilizer. It makes your gun much more accurate on the move or just after you've finished moving, or it's just a great piece of kit to have. So I do recommend a vertical stabilizer. This is a light tank, so you would like to have some sort of view range, but your base view range is pretty awful. I know it's only tier 5, but it's still not great. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to say binos are, in my opinion, desirable on this tank. So you're left with vertical stabilizer, binos, and then what are you going to take for your 3rd equipment slot? If you want to go the scouty route, you could take coated optics as well. It doesn't stack with binos, but then you have some more view range when moving as well. But an extra 10% on 360 isn't that impressive, so I'm not particularly tempted by that. I think realistically there are 3 competitors for that 3rd equipment slot. The obvious one that I haven't mentioned yet is a gun rammer. The reason I haven't mentioned a gun rammer is, in my experience, if you fired one shot, you probably want to bug out. You have a huge reload time. Even with a gun rammer, you have a considerable reload time, and this thing cannot take a hit. And if you're doing that, you're taking a shot and you're clearing off somewhere else. Gun rammer doesn't actually end up being as useful as you might think. It's still an extra 10% of your DPM. An extra 10% of poo is still poo though, so it's not going to give you great DPM. This was not my preferred piece of equipment, but it's an option. Then you have the improved vents. 5% to all your crew skills, so you're slightly more accurate, you're slightly faster, you aim a bit faster, etc, etc, etc. That would definitely be an option. And third option would be an enhanced gun laying drive. 2.9 second aim time is not great. The problem with the enhanced gun laying drive is the soft stats on the gun are still poo, so that may not be as useful as you might want. My recommendation is vertical stabilizer, binos, and then vents. But try out a couple of bits of equipment and see how you feel and see what you think works for you. Yeah. Let's just go and have a look at some gameplay. Alright then, gameplay time as promised. Just before we get into the games themselves, I haven't mentioned module locations on this tank. Not least of all because if you're getting shot at in this thing, you really don't want to get shot at regardless. And if you're shooting this thing, you basically just shoot it anywhere and it will do the job. The only thing really worth noting is that because of the way the engine and the fuel tanks are laid out on this machine, shots to both the rear and the front can set the damn thing on fire, which is a little, or can be a bit frustrating, I guess, potentially. Honestly though, This thing usually is only good for a shot or two. If someone's shooting you in the ELC, things have gone badly wrong. Now we're starting off in a tier 5 match, of course, and we're here on a classic light tank map. This is Prokhorovka. Yes, I was just checking in case it was Fiery Salient. So initially we're going to go to a classic, no we're not, we were going to go to a classic light tank position over there on the 1 and 2 lines, but there's basically no one there to shoot the bad guys, and so we wait until there are, and then away we go. And you can see here we're going along at a good 60 kilometers an hour until we have the audacity to turn the tank, at which point the speed drops to about 50 kilometers an hour. And okay, yes, we're going ever so slightly uphill, and okay, it's not solid terrain, it's not the best terrain, but 50 in a light tank in a straight line on what is not a particularly steep hill? Really? Okay. So we get into the bush, and we're gonna wait for our binos to come up, and voila, we have spotted out a Hetzer. Not going to fire the gun because we don't want to reveal our position. Just going to back off because I don't know how close this guy's getting. I do actually fire the gun once I have backed off, as I should be okay. I shouldn't get spotted for doing that. Bear in mind I do not have Sixth Sense in this tank, so I'm playing it a little bit cautiously. And we've managed to pick up, or we've managed to enable our allies to pick up 1 kill so far. Not really finding anything else, so we're going to push forward just a little bit further. Spot out an Su-85 over there. Not sure if we've been spotted or not. So I just do a little dance here to try and make sure I'm not going to be on the receiving end of a bit of butt pain or face pain or any sort of pain. And then we're going to see if we can spot out anyone once again. Su-85, we take the snapshot and we manage to pick up the kill on the guy. So that's quite nice. We're up to 400 damage done and 49 assistance damage. So you can see here the gun, we've definitely used the fact that it's got 240 alpha damage, which at tier 5 on any sort of tank is good. But we've not really used or had to deal with the long reload time. We've only taken 1 shot, and then we've made sure that, you know, we are not in a position to be shot back. And that's what I was really referring to when I was talking about equipment. And I said, here's that aim time for you. I said you may not want actually the gun rammer on it. This is the first time where we're really waiting for the reload on this gun. And as it is, we're actually going to switch targets. And so the reload doesn't really matter. The limiting factor is technically actually the reload, but it could be the aim time as well. And he actually dies too. And so we're just going to keep moving onward here. But my point is, often the reload is not that much of a crippling factor. You're past the point where you're going to be waiting for the reload most of the time, and suddenly you're much more likely to just have taken your shot and be trying to get out of there. Now that's a shot I take trying to get a bit lucky. I think the gun was at the limit of its traverse just there. We don't get lucky, and that's fine. And instead, going to come over here. Hello, T67. There we go. We actually take some damage there. It's a near miss from artillery, so we take 21 from him. This is only tier 5. That artillery is using a 105mm gun. 105mm guns are not large enough to stun, so we don't have to worry about stunning mechanics. Managed to put a shot into that Stuart. Oh, this could be bad. But the Stuart tracks himself. And are we going to die here? He puts 1 more shot into us, and then he dies. And suddenly, all our health is gone. Didn't take much, did it? We got 3 hit points left. We are just about alive. We've actually technically blocked 40 damage with our armor. We got very lucky there with a miracle bounce from the Stuart. I'm not quite sure where he hit us, but miracle bounces are the best thing you can expect from this armor. You can't expect the armor to actually be doing anything actively useful, and you certainly can't play this tank as if you have got some armor to work with. Slightly irritating there that we weren't able to take the shot straight off because of our gun traverse, and we turned the tank and it slew to the side a little bit, but we are able to pick up our 3rd kill. So, it's not the end of the world. Just this Panzer 4D remaining. The Su-85 is... oh no, this guy's behind some terrain, actually. So we're probably not going to be able to do anything about this guy, but we have a punt. Miss. Going to move forward, see if we can... nah, there's a lot of stuff in the way. Ooh. No, neither the reload nor the aim time are going to allow that. And KV1 actually picks up the kill, and that was the match. So there we go. That was a tier 5 game for you in the AMX. So let's just go and have a look at the post-battle stats for this one. Right then, that was enough for, surprisingly actually for me, first class mastery, fire for effect, and bruiser ribbons. 983 damage done, 3 kills, 875 base experience, and we finished pretty cleanly actually at the top of our team. The guy who came second was that Su-85B with 658 base XP. 9 shots fired, 6 hits, 6 pens for that damage count. 3 hits received, 2 penetrated, 1 did not. Do not expect that very often, but hey, Stuart, not a very good tank. Which meant we actually had 40 damage blocked by our armour. 5 enemy vehicles spotted, 6 damaged and 3 destroyed, and 897 assistance damage with a standard account. That was essentially a 16,000 credit profit for a 5.5 minute match, which was none too bad. As promised then, a tier 7 match for you, and straight away we can tell this thing is going to be a rather different affair to the previous game. Obviously tier 7, so we're bottom tier, but also we're here on Abbey, which is not really a light tank's natural environment. This is probably overall my least favourite map currently in the game. Whereas previously, of course, the map was a light tank's playground. So, what can we do? That's a damn good question. Often you see light tanks on this map rush over toward the Abbey itself. I must admit, I've found myself doing, let's say, rather poorly every time I have attempted something along those lines. And so I'm actually choosing to set up a bit like a heavy tank tank destroyer. Now you might find this a little curious, because this thing only has 120 pen. And, you know, we're bottom tier, but when you actually look... hello, Mr. Stritzfang. When you actually look at it, I mean, have a look at the enemy team. E25, Spar Panzer 1Cs... quite a lot of those tanks we can actually penetrate frontally without too much difficulty. And actually, from when this game was played, this was before the OI Experimental received its changes. So the frontal armor on that thing is a little dubious as well. Hence, that shot was able to go straight through. You wouldn't be able to pull that off now, unfortunately. So that one shot wouldn't have gone through after the OI Experimental changes. So that is worth pointing out. But as it is in this particular case, he is dead, which is nice. So we've managed to put 2 shots into bad guys so far. And this is very much where you're playing it more like a tank destroyer rather than a light tank, because honestly, this thing would struggle to be a light tank on this map. Any light tank kind of struggles to be a light tank on this map. And if I'd gone over towards the valley, I'd have been eaten by a Spar Panzer 1C. Maybe I'd have put 1 shot into him. Maybe not. He takes 2 shots to kill me. I mean, he just kills me. Do not pass go, do not collect £200. You're just dead. Crusader down there, tangling with our T67, or is our T67 tangling with him? And why is that Crusader firing HE? Is he using the derp gun? No, that wasn't much damage. Maybe, oh never mind, he's dead anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm very curious about what gun that guy was using though. KV-85, that's not a good oh, we'll take that. Nah, far too slow. Far too slow, Chip. That was rubbish. Anyway, team is 6-5 up, which is okay. We have committed a few tanks to the 1 and 2 lines, which is good, because in my opinion they are the single most important locations on the map. As from there you can, well, at the very least you can contest their base and you can always go back and defend your base. So that gives you a bit of flexibility there, and that's true from either side, either spawn. Enemy E25s are YOLO rushing the riverbank, which is something to bear in mind, and the reason that I'm deciding to GTFO. Because I really don't need them kind of putting shots into my rectum. That would be decidedly bad. Type 58 over here. If he's just going to sit there, I'm going to see if I can shoot him and aim and aim and pew. There we go. Critical damage as well, which is always nice. But I don't think I'm going to get another shot on him. Little bit of assistance there as well into the bargain, which again is nice to have. And yeah, we're just going to relocate. I don't think that Type 58 is going to pop up again, so let's not worry too much about him anymore. Leopard and E25, despite their YOLO rushing down by the riverbank, they haven't actually broken through, which does surprise me a little bit. I'd have thought between them those guys could DPM a VK and a Scorpion down, but apparently this E25 instead is going mountaineering. Yeah. He's being useful, isn't he? Go figure. So... oh, we just lost our T67 to the Slits farm. That's a shame. So we're just seeing if we can get shots on anyone else. Is that Type 58 going to be good enough to oblige us with another one? Scoreline's at 8-8. Oh, 9-8. We managed to claim the Leopard, which is nice. I don't feel like I've done a fantastic amount this match, but then again, 240 alpha means I've done 750 damage. I've done over twice my own hit point pool in damage in 3 shots as a bottom tier light tank. It's not very often you get to say that, let's be honest. I mean, that's the equivalent, if you were to consider a tier 10 light tank. Our gun does about, what? It does 75% of our own hit points in alpha damage. That's the equivalent of a tier 10 light tank doing around about 1,000 damage. It's basically the howitzer, the American howitzer, and the T-49 and the what's the other one called? Sheridan. Except that this thing gets enough penetration to reliably penetrate things rather than just derping them. Ooh, we spot out that Type 58 again. Don't really want to fight him. That is not an advantageous position for me. Going to struggle with gun elevation there. This is still a French machine at the end of the day. The gun depression and elevation angles are not fantastic. But he's dead anyway, and that's all good. It's a bit of a shame that I don't get the assistance damage for it, but whatever. We'll run with it. Coming around here... now, I'm not really sure what I thought I was going to achieve over here. I think I was trying to flank round. I wasn't expecting that Type 58 to be there, to be fair. And because he's now spotted me, I don't really want to go around there and, I don't know, maybe receive a surprise Spar Panzer to the face. Because, like I said, he'll just kill me. Which would be a shame. He outclasses me in every single way. He also has a 90mm gun, but, you know, with a usable reload and decent accuracy, and he can shoot on the move with it and actually hit things. So, yeah, there's that. Still got these 2 E25s, Spar Panzer 1C, and the Bathtub of Doom to deal with. Technically, our team is winning, but, you know, it's quite close, and these things can turn around at fairly short notice. And I'm kind of dithering here. I don't really know what I'm going to do. I think if I'm going to drive to the enemy cap, I'm just going to get myself executed, which is why when the VK says cap, I'm like, how about no? That just doesn't tend to end that well. So, in the end, I decide... this is potentially a little bit dodgy. I decide that rather than capping, I'm going to explore the 1 and 2 lines. Because at least they give you more options. Now, this does come with a decided risk. If I run in to either the E25s or the SP1C, then they're probably just going to kill me. And I've just found out that the VK 3001D, the guy who was suggesting capping, is actually on his side over by the riverbank. So, although we're technically leading, I mean, basically that VK isn't in the match, which means we're not really winning so much. Bathtub has been spotted, and it looks like he is hopefully going to be executed. That would make our lives decidedly easier. There we go. IKV takes him out. And so we're just left with the 3 tier 7s to deal with. Ho-hum. Now, one of the E25s was last spotted at D2. So it's possible that he is going to be over joining us, shall we say, which would be a problem. But I'm very conscious of the fact that no one's really doing anything. I really don't know what to do here, I'll be honest. In case you hadn't noticed, dithering around an awful lot. I can't stand this map. But it looks like the Scorpion's coming this way, so you know what? Nuts to it. Let's give him a hand. We've got a Scorpion, we've got a Type T-34, we've got the IKV, and we've got myself. We all appear to be deciding that this is the time to do stuff with 6 minutes left on this match. I'm like, okay, cool, that's fine. I'm perfectly happy to do stuff. And I'm not doing it alone, so now I'm confident to go and, you know, be useful. And I don't mind being at the front, I don't mind being the one who spots things, that's okay, even though my base view range is pretty naff, and that was a wreck. But as long as I'm not on my own, because that tends to end badly, let's be honest. So we're going up here, seeing what we can find. I'm very cautious because that E25, as I mentioned, was last spotted over here. Now, E25 is a very mobile machine. That does not mean he's still over here, and that certainly does not mean that someone else couldn't be over here instead, or with him. But, ooh, SP1C has now been spotted down by the VK. So the VK has performed a function. He has let us know that the Spar Panzer has moved. He's probably going to die for it, but he's let us know that the Spar Panzer has moved. Okay, E25 is clearly also relocated because we haven't run into him. So, just going to... I always tend to just spot anything I can from here before going towards the enemy base. And our team does seem to have decided we are going to assault the base. So, binos up. No, we haven't seen anything. Of course, the 3 remaining tanks on the enemy team are all pretty sneaky. So that's no guarantee that there's no one there, but, yeah, go figure. Type T-34 has no health. IKV has had enough of this nonsense. He is moving up. So we're going to go and support him. And finally our VK drowns. And thus the scorelines more accurately reflect the reality of the situation. So, trying to avoid the capture circle, because that just announces to all and sundry, oh no, I've decided I'm capping, never mind, sorry, this is me misremembering. Initially, or rather, remembering different bits, initially I was trying to avoid the capture circle, because I didn't want them to know where we were. Having said that, it looks like we as a team have decided we are capping this, we are making them come to us, which is not necessarily a terrible idea. 3 of us in the cap makes the cap counter go down pretty damn quick. And the enemy team are all very sneaky, but that advantage is considerably negated if they drive into us rather than the other way round. Having said that, that E25 has now been spotted. He takes out the Type T-34. I'm not going to fire my gun. I think I has now been spotted. Ooh, that E25 has died. Stay in the capture circle, stay in the capture circle, stay in the capture circle, and boom, 1 into that E25. He's going to hit me, unfortunately. And in a close range dogfight, E25 versus ELC is actually quite an interesting scenario. The E25 does have the advantage, even if for no other reason than pure DPM, but as it is, I'm able to put a shot into his bum and deal with that. And then our IKV is able to take out the Spar Panzer, and so that's it. We win. Hurrah! The E25 of all things was actually firing a PCR. Up against a Type T-34, an IKV-90B, an ELC, and a Scorpion. Who in their right mind fires APCR at any of those? If you can't penetrate any of them with AP, APCR ain't going to help you. You're screwed either way. Anyway, what you going to do? So, that was the match. Let's go and have a look at the post-battle stats once again. That was enough then for second class mastery and the fire for effect ribbon. Finished third on our team by experience, 1040 damage done, 1 kill, 662 base XP. Shout out to our Tiger 131 who managed 2.3k damage, which is quite a nice result from him, especially bearing in mind that the Tiger wasn't actually top tier in that match. 7 shots fired, 5 hits, 5 pens for that damage count, most of which was from relatively long range. 1 hits received. It penetrated. 1 hits received? 1 hit received. Anyway, it penetrated either way. But we did manage to survive that match, although I did think at the end maybe that Spar Panzer was going to kill us. 2 enemy vehicles spotted, 4 damaged, 1 destroyed, 193 assistance damage, 26 base capture points, 4.73 kilometers travelled, and essentially a 15,000 credit profit that time with a standard account. Once again, a much longer match that one, but even so, again, the result wasn't too bad in the end. So, thoughts on this tank then? Well, way back in the dawny mists of time, this used to be my favourite Tier 5 light tank. This was a keeper for me. I loved the ELC, it was so much fun. Patch 9.18, unfortunately for me, has wrecked the tank. It is not the machine it once was, and I am most definitely not keeping it. That may well be different for you, and that's absolutely fine. But this is not the fast little troll machine that it used to be. Now, some people actually like the fact that the alpha damage is effectively greater than it was, because 240 is more meaningful on a tank that sees Tier 5 matchmaking compared to a tank that sees Tier 6 matchmaking, which is what the ELC used to be with the old light tank matchmaker. But no, for me it's dead and buried, and once I've done this review, I'm going to sell it and not look back. Which is a bit sad, but it is what it is, so go figure. Try it for yourself by all means, see what you think. The general consensus seems to be it's dead. But there are one or two people who do still like it, or now who do like it who perhaps didn't before. So it might be worth trying out. But if you've already ground past the ELC and you're higher up on the French light tanks, I probably wouldn't recommend coming back to this thing. It certainly won't be the machine that you remember. And overall, honestly, I don't really see why you'd bother to play this. The Chaffee, for my money now, is a much more fun Tier 5 light tank. That's just my opinion though. Your mileage may vary. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that review and possibly found it vaguely informative. If you did, by all means feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel. And as ever, I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao, ciao.